Hey everybody, I'm Carolynne Raymond, your science fiction and fantasy author. Get ready because we're about to dive into the behind the scenes chaos of my writing world. So I write in different genres, from creating a children's storybook to sci-fi novels, to spilling the inner workings on how I write. I'm from the lively city of Ottawa, Canada. I've grown up with my parents and a younger brother and sister. I always had an appreciation for those that could write stories, and ever since I was young, my mom made sure that there was lots of children's stories in the house growing up. So I ended up growing up liking to read, and it continued on into adulthood. It didn't matter if it was, stories in general, it didn't matter if it was a book, a TV show, a movie, or an audio story. For me, stories bring worlds to life. It sparks the imagination, and from this love of stories, it also sparked other creative outlets. So today, I live with my husband, who's my anchor and my go-to brainstorming person. He's on the call too, just watching in the background. Thank you. We have a little one that keeps us laughing and our lives on the go. Other side things is I enjoy photography, painting, and gardening. In my free time, you can find me curled up on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, watching anything from reality TV to fantasy to science fiction to stories that are based on true events. I love thrillers, comedies, you name it. I know it's kind of a weird combination, but as long as the story is captivating, I'm engaged. So going back a little bit, so if we rewind back to 2012, that was the year I accidentally stumbled upon the world of novel writing. The catalyst was a couple of lackluster reads that made me go, I could do better. I can write a better story. So fast forward to now, I'm a storyteller navigating the worlds of words. So for today's Q&A, it's your VIB pass to the secrets of my books. We're not just scratching the surface with characters and plots, we're diving into the juicy bits, the untold stories, the twists you won't find on the pages. So grab your snacks, settle in, and let's take a deep dive into the wordy wonderland. So I'm just going to check if we have any questions. I don't think there is. I don't see any posts, so we'll keep going. So if you have any questions that come up while I'm discussing, feel free to go ahead and put it into the discussion of the Facebook chat. I'm also checking the Goodreads side of it too. If you post a question there, I'll keep an eye on it periodically. Okay, so getting into the writing process. So I'm a bit of a rebel when it comes to schedules. For me, there's no fixed routine here. I write whenever the desire makes an appearance. Life's a juggling act. There's work, mom duties, and the occasional need to escape the four walls. I've got some habits that keep my writing wheels turning. So when an idea strikes, I capture it in my phone's notes. I always have my phone attached to me, so it's the easiest way to capture my writing. I use it as a safety net. I'll write a few sentences to describe the idea, which allows me to jump into details later when the time is right. So it goes from my phone to my laptop, and I just plug away at it bit by bit. So right now, I have a few books that have been published, and there's basically no pantsing my way through the chapters like I used to. When I first started writing, I used to have a general idea of what I wanted to have happen in my story, and how I arrived to the end would be a mystery until I wrote it. I stopped following this method because I usually have a couple of stories at different stages, and I would switch between writing projects whenever I hit a writer's block. Sometimes I stayed on one script for months and then would stop to go back to the other script, and I would then get stuck with having to reread it because I had totally forgotten the progression and where I left off. So now, today I'm the architect, that's a hard word to say, plotting each twist and turn. Chapter summaries are my guiding stars, letting me leapfrog through the narrative without losing my way. So for my summaries, when I do write a quick little description, it's a description of what happens and the things that I need to talk about, like the relationships between characters. So if an inspiration hits me or I dream of an amazing scene, I'll wake up and write a note to the chapter where I think it's best to include. So writing a summary of each chapter is, for me, it's so incredibly helpful because for me, I can easily jump ahead and write out, for example, chapter 17 in full because of a dream or an idea that came to me. And I can look at my chapter summaries and see at which point the scene would be matched to the chapter. The next day, if another thought comes, I can go easily forward or back to the project without having to reread the entire story because the chapter summary told me exactly what I needed to write about. So fun fact, A Life Freed will be my third book in the Earth and Eris series. This is an example of this non-linear magic that I'm talking about. Another thing that I do is I've learned to trust my instincts. That's another cornerstone for me. I write stories I'd want to read, not just what the market craves. So I know my tales do touch on popular themes like time travel, for instance, parallel universes, lost civilizations, and the magic of opposites attracting. But I put my own spin on them, making each story a unique adventure. So for the time travel is basically characters' journey through time, altering past events, and potentially changing the course of history. So you experience this trope in the Earth and Eris series with the character who is Robin in the present on Earth, and who is Talon in her past life on the world Eris. So I also touch on parallel universes, which is multiple realities where characters can explore alternate versions of themselves and the world. So I use this trope in my novel, The Crinkled Page, when Lark, her baby, and later Lark's husband, Todd, unknowingly travel through a portal that was in an old storybook and find themselves in a parallel universe. Lost civilization. So lost civilization is characters who discover the ruins of an advanced ancient society, often holding powerful secrets. So my next book in the Earth and Eris series, A Life Freed, will follow this trope, and also the time travel romance trope, where characters from different time periods or timelines fall in love. Another trope that I like to write about is opposites attract. Characters with contrasting personalities or backgrounds find love. You see this in Talon and Citrus's storyline in the Earth and Eris series book 1, A Life Cycle Reborn, and in Ashlia and Fail's story in book 2 of A Life Again. So another thing that I do follow too is I immerse myself in stories, and I think that's one of the key things to learn. I'm currently reading, I'm reading a book called Just for the Summer by Sue Moorcroft, and I just finished watching the TV series 1883, which is awesome, oh my god. And I just finished watching Servant, which I think it's on Apple. Love that show. that one really made me think. And a movie that I watched recently it was a couple of thrill-seeking friends who climbed up an abandoned radio tower. The movie was called Fall, and all it was two girls on a tower trying to survive. It was a really interesting story, and I loved the director's take on how he told the story. And for an hour and a half, we just watched two girls on a tower trying to survive. Another thing is, besides TV shows, movies, books, I also love enjoying people recount something that happened to them. And you see this a lot on social media. So I find it interesting because there are short stories only minutes long, and they have to hook the viewer in the first few seconds. So for this, TikTok uses that a lot. They have a ton of great storytellers that do this, and in their 30 seconds, up to 10-minute videos that they create, they have mastered the art of hooking a viewer's attention in those first seconds. I find that so fascinating as an author, and I try to employ those tactics in my own books to keep readers' attention. My favorite content creators on TikTok is this woman. Her handle's at Tessa Vision. She reads her subscribers' stories about paranormal things that they have experienced. It sounds kind of weird, but it's actually, she really hooks you in. I also enjoy watching at The New Method. She is a doctor who talks about the basics of living well and easy things you can do to help improve health. It sounds like a boring topic, but again, she makes it very interesting. And then there's this other TikTok person. His name is at Christopher Claflin. He's someone who enjoys talking about creating content, but he also gives his take in a neutral way on current events that are happening in the world. So I really appreciate watching those people on social media. Sorry, my chair's rolling away on me. So challenges for me, it's basically a delicate dance of describing worlds and characters without drowning readers in the details. It's a balancing act, and there's the art of creating believable antagonists, motivations, logic, and all. No one likes one-dimensional villains. For me, I strive for depth and blurring the lines between good and bad. So there you have it. That's a sneak peek into the wild ride of my writing process. I'll open up for questions. If you have any, please feel free to put it in the discussion section on our author Q&A page. I'll just take a moment here and bring my mouse up, see if I can refresh. So going back into it, so I wrote the question down to myself, what inspired me to become a writer? So like I mentioned before, my earliest days, stories were my love, and I owe that to my mom. But at the time when I was a kid, writing wasn't on my radar. I wasn't my career ambition. I actually wanted to become a veterinarian because I liked animals. So going back to my childhood, high school English classes were a mixed bag for me. I adored devouring books like To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee and Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, Animal Farm in 1984 by George Orwell, and Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. But discussing them in endless essays in English class, it wasn't my cup of tea. I hated it. In my mind, I was an avid reader, not a writer. The book reports that followed, the 5 to 12 paragraph essays that the teachers had us write on those books, I didn't enjoy so much. And unfortunately, that was my first real taste of writing something longer than a few sentences. I had, because I loved the books, I had my opinions about the books, but discussing the idea and proving that point within several paragraphs wasn't my favorite thing to do. And that was my first taste of writing, and I did it, and from what I'd been introduced to, I wasn't interested. So going along, moving forward into my early 30s, a time that was basically the time where the writing bug hit me pretty hard. After reading a few crummy novels, a challenge brewed within me that I could do better. So looking at technology back then, the writing world was changing. So there was the empowerment of independent publishing, and that was a huge game changer. So publishing houses were no longer gatekeepers. So for me, when I looked at, challenging myself, I looked at the opportunity going, well, I could write, I could edit, I could create, and I can publish my work online. I had a real and tangible goal, and the satisfaction of saying, hey, I made this, brought a wave of confidence, accomplishment, and pride. So now if we pivot over to talking about influences, so Anna Sewell's Black Beauty opened my eyes. Oh, you guys read that book too? Thank you for the hearts. Basically, Black Beauty opened my eyes with its unique perspective, a tale from a horse's point of view. I thought that was so interesting as a preteen reading this book. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, I can't talk right now, Harry Potter series. For me, it wove magic, mythical creatures, and an irresistible urgency to know what happened next. She's really good. Oh, hey, Kayla. Happy that you joined us. That's awesome. Welcome. Another author that I really appreciate is C.S. Lewis, and they wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, which delved into time warps, parallel worlds, and captivating the imagination. I love those books. You see that with my novel, The Crinkled Page. I mirror some of the storylines there within my own novels. Other things that influence my writing is real life experiences play a role too. I have a constant inner battle with self-doubt, and it reflects in the characters. Like, for instance, Talyn from the Earth and Eris series. Her struggles echo my own battles with that nagging voice of doubt, countered by my logical side saying, you can do this. Also with my novel, The Crinkled Page, emerged from the fears of being a new mom, the terror of losing a child, and the mysteries a family might unravel to find them. As the origin of where my ideas come from, they often come from dreams, daydreams, and from life and pondering, what if this happened instead of that happening, that sort of thing. For instance, my unexpected hit, so going over to my children's story, I have it here. I love this book. So, what does Teddy do while you're away all day? This stems from potty training, my son. So what I did was I act out bathroom scenarios with my son's teddy bear, which led to a magical moment when my son thought Teddy had done the impossible, which was pooped in the toilet. And just like that, a children's book was born from an unexpected magic of parenting. Oh, speaking of which, my son's down here picking out some toys. Okay, I'm going to pause for some book questions. I'm just going to refresh again. We'll continue along and we'll dive into some details about key characters from my books. So I have this character named Kyle, for instance. He's Robin's husband in the Earth and Eris series. His role isn't just about giving Robin a life partner. It's basically a window into her life on Earth. Through Kyle, we explore the ties between Robin's present and her past on Eris. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I get that a lot. It's just, yeah, children's storybooks are awesome. So, and then in the upcoming book, A Life Freed, Kyle's character takes center stage, linking Earth's ancient history to Eris, adding a unique twist to the series. So this A Life Freed isn't yet out yet, so I actually have these were my first 2 books, and I'm hoping to have the 3rd book out maybe in early 2024, but it's going to come full circle. I can't wait to share it with you guys once it's out. Another character from the Earth and Eris series is Isabel, not Isabel, Isabel. She's from the world of Eris, from the same series. Initially, she was just a power extension of Princess Rosaline. That's how I'd written her in initially. But I found that Isabel's character evolved unexpectedly for me. She went from a rigid enforcer. She became a mentor with vulnerabilities. In A Life Again, the 2nd book, we delve deeper into her backstory, and her journey continues in A Life Freed. There's another character. I've got it on my e-reader here, but yeah, this is the crinkled page cover. But there was a character in the crinkled page, a supporting character. Her name was Danny. She was actually inspired from a real-life acquaintance, and Danny's character reflects the complexities of life. So her portrayal in a wheelchair symbolizes the unexpected turns life can take. Writing about her in the story was a poignant exploration of what could have been for someone I knew. So moving on to settings and world building, I'll switch over. The Earth and Eris series for me was a selfish creation. I created a world that I would want to live in personally, so my own fantasy. I drew inspiration from Canada's 4 Seasons, that's where I hail from, but I opted for a completely warm world. I hate winter, and it's getting cold. It's November, so the snow's coming. So for Eris, for the planet Eris, the diverse landscapes, adapted characters, and eco-friendly technology were influenced by my day job. I work on a lot of environmental support. Eris, so planet Eris consists of lush forests, tropical islands, deserts, and plains. From there, I thought about what kinds of wildlife would be abundant on this world, and I thought about the animals of our own planet, with the only difference in the insects had the chance to thrive, because winter, like in the northern and southernmost hemispheres, bugs get killed off in the winter, right? So on Eris, they live longer, they grew larger, and they're more painful when they attack. The oceans teemed with life because of the warmer waters, created an ideal environment. After this, I considered my characters. What would they look like in order to live on this planet? So for me, I considered the oceans being warm. I considered my human-like characters being able to not only live on the land, but also be able to go underwater and hold their breath for longer periods of time than humans. So they had webbed fingers and toes. They weren't frogs. And they could hold their breath for long periods of time. So they were adapted to swimming. Yeah, me too. I hate the cold. I like skiing and stuff, but I only like it in small chunks. Okay. So, about my aliens from Eris, I feel like they're not really aliens. They're just adapted I guess they're humanoids. So because of their adaptation to this planet, their skin was resilient, to protect from the sun, the wildlife, primarily the insects. And as a result, they were ageless. So their skin didn't age the way that it does with us as humans. They didn't get wrinkles. They didn't get blemishes. Their skin was tough. Other considerations was how technology progressed there on that planet. And for me, I envisioned Eris utilizing elements of the surface, such as solar and wind, to power their cities. At the time, my day job was in supporting the environment, like I mentioned. So my real life work kind of appeared on the pages of this series. So that's how inspiration hits. If I switch gears to the crinkled page, on the other hand, that was, like I mentioned, that was inspired by the works of C.S. Lewis, J.K. Rowling, also George R.R. Martin. It delves into the idea of fairy tales and mythical creatures being more than just stories. The parallel world creating an enchanting nightmare for the main character, Lark. My real life working idea was asking the question, what if the fairy tales and mythical creatures were more than just children's stories? And that's how the story formed. And and basically, with a newborn child, an overtired parent was trapped into trying to figure out if she was seeing things or if they were real, and if she was trying to go crazy. And that's sort of the premise of the crinkled page. Well, it's not sort of, it is the premise of the crinkled page. Okay, so we'll switch gears a little bit here. Just take a sip of water. I'm just going to go off screen for a sec. Okay. So if we switch over to another topic about some of my favorite scenes with my writing. In A Life Cycle Reborn, the moment when Talon and Ashleah learned to use the solar suits. So solar suits were basically like flying suits. Imagining the exhilaration of flying and bringing it to life on the pages was fun for me. I totally love the idea of being able to fly. In the book, What Does Teddy Do While You're Away All Day? That's my children's book. My favorite part of that story was the end, because it emphasizes the importance of the little boy in the lives of those around him. So creating a heartfelt message about love. The little boy's teddy bear waited for him all day and explains how much his teddy bear cares for him, and includes a reminder of how his mommy and daddy love him. So my personal wish is that my son knows just how much he is loved, and so I put those onto the pages for him. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting how these stories, I never thought I would have written a children's book, but it was complete by accident, and it ended up being one of my top selling books. Anyway. So let's change topics here, and we'll pivot over to behind the scenes antidotes and journey of writing. So A Life Freed, my next book coming up in 2024, I actually hit writer's block. So with this book, I had a lack of inspiration for it, and it led me to taking a break. I had come across something on Facebook or TikTok about a fairly recent discovery, and I think that was in the 1990s that it was discovered. It was a place called Yanaguni Monument, and that's off the coast of Japan. So if you Google it, Yanaguni Monument is currently under 20 meters of water, and the theory was that in the last ice age, about 10,000 years ago, this formation was likely above water because more of the Earth's water was frozen. Even though current beliefs is that this was naturally formed rock, for me watching this content, I couldn't shake the thought that the monument looks like a pyramid. So the idea came to mind was that Earth did, so this is an idea, it's a story. So the idea came to mind that, what if Earth did have an advanced civilization all those years ago? What would it look like? What would the people be like? What kinds of technology did they have that is different from our present day technologies? So the idea of ancient civilization and then going down the rabbit hole and eventually finding more information and speculations, I drew from the series. For example, if you go on Netflix, Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix, which provides a glimpse of major archaeological finds around the world. And the narrator of that series makes speculations based on the similarities of different sites. So all these speculations, facts and fictions, I considered for my own writing, and it gave me a clear idea of my next book in the series. And so I went back to my script and I reshaped it into something more fresh and exciting. So, with that said, I'll read a little bit of my next story, A Life Freed. So this text is from my main character, Taylon's point of view. So, get into character. Now bundled up in warm clothes provided by August, the cool breeze no longer bothers me as much. I come to accept my fate and can envision a future for myself living on this world, even if I never make it back to Eris. As we ascend another hill, a breathtaking sight unfolds before my eyes, unlike anything I've ever seen. The valley below seems to belong to a majestic, colossal figure, like a white-cloaked king who emanates a subtle blue glow as the light dances upon his regal attire. It feels almost surreal, as if this presence shouldn't exist, yet there is no denying that it has shaped the very landscape of the valley. Pushing the earth aside to establish its domain, August enlightens us, sharing his observation that the herd seem to gravitate towards the glaciers. He speculates that the glaciers act as a solid barrier, simplifying their surroundings and reducing the number of angles they need to be attentive to. Descending the hill, the moving dots in the distance gradually take form, revealing their immense size. They surpass the elephants from my own world, with some possessing tusks as colossal as the masts of sailboats. Isabel touches August's arm, whispering her concern. Should we be worried about them? August reassures us. We'll stay downwind, and everything will be fine. Okay, that's it for now. I don't want to give too much. But yeah, feel free to ask about anything, characters, plots, or even tidbits from behind the scenes. I'll just take another refresh. We'll discuss reader feedback that I've received over the years. So some of the most memorable comments that I've received from readers about my books, particularly the science fiction and fantasy novels, they do come from family and friends. They've been so supportive, and I've received comments like, I don't usually read in this genre, but I really enjoyed your book. So, like I said, I know that science fiction and fantasy is not everyone's go-to, but those that have given my books a try where the genre wasn't their cup of tea, and they said that they really enjoyed it, it makes me so happy, and it's confirmation that you don't need to always write to market to write a good book. So we'll switch gears again. What's the time here? 12:36. So we'll explore the art of character creation and cover how I develop well-rounded and relatable characters. So for me, like I mentioned earlier, I get inspiration from those that I've met along the way in life. I consider, when I'm developing my characters, I consider personalities and the types of personalities the supporting characters should have in order to support and complement or clash with my main characters. I consider what their motivations are and why they do what they do, and would it make sense, and is it relatable? I build on who the character is, what do they do for a living, Do they like their work? Do they generally have a positive or negative, outlook on life? So these are all considerations that I take into account. I build on physical appearances and describe physical traits on for me, I do it on a separate Word document. And I do this for a couple of reasons. One is to keep track of who is who. I have a terrible memory of forgetting stuff. And another reason is I'm an extremely visual person. And another reason is to ensure that I have dynamic characters. For example, they can't all have brown hair and blue eyes or be the same height. I'm a believer myself of including diversity amongst characters. And in the Earth and Air series, while Taylon's family has a lighter complexion, those from some of the northern islands, as well as from across the ocean, have varied skin tones. For instance, Isabel and Daner have olive tones. Fail has a very dark complexion. So if I switch over to my other book, The Crinkled Page, if we look at Dani's character, she was a character with a disability, with having had to use a wheelchair. So I think it's important to have that representation in your books. So also referring to The Crinkled Page, speaking about Dani a little bit more, Dani's character was the perfect fit of a character who wasn't Lark's enemy, but she was a person that clashed with Lark. Dani had a different outlook on life. The thing was she didn't hold back, while Lark did. So Dani was bold. She was abrupt. She could be in your face. She was everything that Lark wasn't. And the book needed Dani for those reasons, as well as not just to confirm Lark's suspicions of the book, like of the book that was a portal, that we talked about earlier. Other things that I consider are things like, does the character add value to the story? Do they help change the mood? Do they help progress the story? And if they don't, do any of those things if they don't do any of those things, the consideration of cutting them becomes really apparent. So that's that. And I'll share some inspirations behind some of the most memorable characters. So if we, also from the Earth and Air series, there's a character named Shaylo. She was basically a summed up version of every kind of bully that I've seen. Everybody gets bullied. But it was, things I observed in life and, personal bullying on myself. So, if you look at Shaylo, if you look at her positive traits, she was an extremely confident and intense person. And when she committed to something, it was 110%. On the other side of it, her, that intensity, often put her at odds with others because she never compromised her personal beliefs. And that's where, the battle kind of happened in terms of that, because there was that pushback and no compromise. So switching gears again, we'll talk about challenges and triumphs. So I'm at 1241 here. So for me, myself, if I step aside from writing and if I look at the whole author career picture, the biggest challenge for me is actually putting myself out there. So this live event is a challenge for me. I love to write books, and I understand that if I want anyone to read my work, then I need to exist. They need to know that I exist. So when I first started, I had a couple of personal social media profiles. I was the person who scrolled through the feeds and liked other people's posts, but I didn't really participate because I'm a very shy person. That's who I am. I didn't like creating my own content. I was, I kind of have some shyness factors in life as well. In my real world, I was never good at small talk. I hated speaking in front of large groups. And though I was shy, I think others perceived my shyness as being a snob. Are all of your books available on Amazon? All of them are available on Amazon except for A Life Freed. That one's coming out in 2024. Thanks for the question. Okay, so basically, yeah, I don't think I'm an introvert in real life, so I think the traits can sometimes come off as being snooty or snobby, but I very well, when you see discussions around you, I wanted to be a part of the discussion, but not the focus of the attention.
Hey, Mom.
Hey.
Please come here.
I'm on Facebook.
No, come. It's snowing.
It's snowing. Oh my God, it's snowing.
No, come.
I can't. I'll see it after. Oh, he is very excited about the snow, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay, but I'd rather be on a beach. So yeah, shyness for me, if I switch back, shyness for me is for sure a barrier to connecting with others. And looking back on the handful of friendships that I had growing up, it was really only the super outgoing people that often reached out to me in some way first, and they ended up having some kind of common ground, and that's when our friendships formed. So it's like a constant battle to get over that shyness and to be able to reach out and connect with other people. So when I published my first novel, I knew that I needed to step up my social skills and participate. That is my biggest challenge. Oh, thank you. You are doing amazing. I'd like to buy the one with Danny and Lark. Okay, we'll talk after. I created social media author profiles. I eventually forced myself to start posting about anything, books, life, writing, and it was nerve-wracking in the beginning. It's silly, but my cheeks would get red, anticipation of clicking publish. I don't know why. Anytime someone commented on a post, my heart would thump. In the beginning, it was hard, controlling nervousness, finding something interesting to say. I eventually elevated my content to videos, recording myself and then re-recording myself because I didn't like how it all flowed. So it took a while. Sometimes I would record like 5 videos before I was actually satisfied and posted. But yeah, I guess that's the reality of getting used to or getting over your fear. So for me, the triumph, I love it when it snows too, Jackson. Yeah, I think we all get a little excited and then you have to shovel the snow and then it's not so fun after that. Anyways, the triumph was basically getting used to everything. So I forced myself. I posted regularly. I looked at what others were posting. I learned not to take posting too seriously and stress myself out. I eventually expanded and took on things like author interviews. I did some blog tours and realized that after doing that, the buildup of nerves that I was having was an irrational fear. And I knew it before, but actually doing these events and having nothing go seriously wrong over the odd stutter, which I've done during this live, it's not serious enough not to try to do it at all. Like, you have to put yourself out there. So I still get nerves before events. And when I try something new, but it's a mild version, like whenever I do try something new, I do get nerves, but it's a milder version of what it was when I had first started all those years ago. The thing that helps me get through is basically planning this out, planning what you're going to say. What are you going to talk about to fill up the time that you have when you do decide to go live? or record a video or go to, a blog tour or what have you. So memorable moments. Memorable moment in my writing career was after publishing my first book, A Life Cycle Reborn, from the Earth and Era series. After I'd published, I ordered myself some copies, of course, which I have. Of course, you have to have your own copies of your books. So it was that first book, something about holding that first copy in your hand for the very first time. It is so memorable. And, I can't explain how happy I was as an author to actually hold something that you've created so tangible. I do get that excitement still with the other books that I've published, but it's not the same intensity as that first published book. So I loved that. That was one moment that I can't replicate ever again. But if there's any authors online, you totally get what I'm saying. It's that first book. Okay, so talking about books and switching over, we'll talk about some of the future projects coming up. Again, my next book will be the third book in the Earth and Era series. It will be titled A Life Freed, and it's a continuation of Talyn's story, and it takes place on both worlds, Earth and Eris. So you learn more about Kyle, his storyline, and Kyle's progression in present on Earth. Kyle was Talyn's husband when she was once a woman named Robin on Earth. Thanks, Tina. It's important to go after your dreams. You should be proud. Thank you. In this next book that's coming out, you also learn about the continuation of her life as Talyn. So book 2, A Life Again, had ended with uncertainties on where and when Talyn and Isabel ended up. And in this next book, you learn where and roughly at what point in time Talyn and Isabel had ended up. So the third book kind of brings it will bring the series all together, and you'll right at the beginning, the opening pages, you'll know exactly where you are without giving too much away. So A Life Freed is going to have that classic time travel, whereas the previous book's time travel subject matter took readers back in time through the characters' previous lives. So this book does that too, but without completely giving away the book. The story also hits the classic time travel trope of a character not dying, but instead traveling as themselves through time. So yeah, I can't wait for it. So A Life Freed, as I mentioned before, it takes the popular theory that there were advanced ancient civilizations on Earth, and I take the reader down that rabbit hole of what the Earth may have looked like back then, how different species of intelligent beings may have coexisted. So, example, humans and Neanderthals. What advanced technologies may have looked like, and what ancient ruins in today's world may have looked like 10,000 years ago. I really love how this story came together, and I think it'll be a strong conclusion to the series. Oh, I remember when you first started. I think it's so crazy and amazing that you have a handful of them now. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been almost a decade of writing that series, but yeah, it's finally coming to a close, wrapped up with a pretty ribbon. So what can you expect for the future? So I've started capturing ideas for a book that will be titled When We Chose to Be Boundless. So this is another story process that I'm kind of drafting out. Well, not kind of, I am drafting out, but it's just very early stages. So a bit about When We Chose to Be Boundless. This story will follow a young man and his family as they navigate through the world, of what the world became following a scientific breakthrough of discovering how to reteach human cells how to repair themselves entirely, thus discovering the fountain of youth and immortality. So the story explains how this treatment became widely adopted. It also tells the stories of those who chose not to be treated so that they could age out and die. It talks about the decline of major illnesses and disease, followed by the gradual overpopulation of the earth, the massive jump in technology, human intelligence, which we're experiencing now, and use of artificial intelligence. The realization that ancient civilizations on Earth were in fact advanced civilizations and humanity's arrival to the universal stage in being able to travel to other worlds because of their advancements in extending life to the point of being practically immortal. So that's one of those projects that once I finish the Earth and Era series, I'm going to get right into this book. I really find it interesting, especially in today's world with AI making huge advancements and the fact that there's so much going on with stem cell technology that, in the next 10 years, we could be getting medicines to make us immortal. I don't know. I read about it. So I go down those rabbit holes and find these things, and I find it so interesting as a science fiction and fantasy author, and then to capture those ideas on the pages. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. I'm going to check again for more questions. So I'm just being conscious of the time because I know this is your lunch break. I'm so happy that you guys decided to come and join me for this hour. It goes by fast. Since we don't have any questions, what I'll do is, let's see here. Where are we at? I'll talk about another little topic before we end for the day. Okay, so one of the questions I looked up for myself for this Facebook Live is, what style of writing do I usually write in when I'm writing my books? And my stories are actually, I'm most comfortable telling stories in the first person by the character's point of view. I'm super comfortable in that way because it just feels easier to express emotions and viewpoints from the eyes of the character. Though, looking at other authors' works like, George R.R. Martin with Game of Thrones, I find it very interesting to also write in the third person. And maybe I might dive down that path and give that a try of writing in the third person, just to challenge myself and maybe switch it up a little bit with my next books. Other writing, we'll talk about one more thing, I guess. So for me, there's a lot of, when you look at writing and styles and advice and stuff, I try to follow certain things, certain best practices. So I try to employ like a show and don't tell method by, instead of directly telling the reader what's happening or how a character feels, I try my best to show it through actions, dialogues, and body language to help engage readers' imaginations and emotions. I try to describe a character's emotion as a way to get into my characters' heads to help the reader emphasize their struggles and triumphs. I try to describe genuine and relatable emotions. I also try to use dialogue to help bring scenes to life. So it reveals personalities, motivation, and can be a source of conflict or tension. Other things that I really pay attention to is the story's pace, using pacing to control the rhythm of the scene. So, for example, I build tension through slower, more descriptive passages and then release it with rapid, action-packed sequences. So, for instance, the crinkled page, the scene at the school, I had a slow pace describing everything around Lark, my main character, and then when the next part happened, the pace was quick and short and impactful sentences. Another example are those final scenes with Lark, Wesley, and Todd before everything went dark. Those short descriptive sentences to create that fast tension. Okay, so I have so much more stuff to say, but you know what? I ran out of time. And you guys have to get on with your day too. So there's one thing I want to let you know before we part for the day is I want to thank you so much for coming and joining me in this lunch hour. I hope your lunch was good. I hope it was tasty and not just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but some people like peanut butter and jelly, so hey, that's okay too. But I wanted to point you to my author Q&A discussion page. I posted actually a link to the ebook, The Crinkled Page, just as a thank you for coming to join me here. Because I know everybody is so busy with their lives, and you know it's an hour is a lot of time, right? So I appreciate you joining me and taking part and being a part of this. Yeah, so basically check out the link. It's actually a Smashwords link, so it'll take you to Smashwords is a book distributor, and then when you click the download, depending on what you have. So for me, I'm a Kobo user, but if you have Kindle or tablet or you read from your computer, you can download the different files that's supported on whatever resource that you have to read. So yeah, jump on it, join, and if you do grab a copy and read it, let me know what you think. Yeah, I really appreciate it. The Crinkled Page is my own personal favorite, like out of all the books that I've written. I like Teddy too. Teddy was a cute book to write, but yeah, The Crinkled Page was fun. It was a fun read, and it's actually my personal favorite. So please go check it out. And we are at 1 o'clock. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the snow if you are seeing snow today. I'm going to be seeing snow today because I'll be going out in a bit. But yeah, have a great day, everybody, and thanks for coming online. Okay, and we're going to finish. Bye, guys.